Hi, Gwendolyn, Adria. So as you can see, I got a haircut. It's not a ton, but it had been like 6, 7 months since I got a haircut and had been trimming my own bangs in the meantime. So it was really nice not having to like crane and sweep up after myself and um, also have terribly uneven hair. So one thing that I was really excited about when we were all getting ready to graduate was the prospect of reading for pleasure. And that surprisingly panned out. I was not at all sure. You say you're going to do lots of things. I'm going to clean the house more. I'm going to do a triathlon. I'm going to learn to drive. I'm going to learn to do a breaststroke. I'm going to not steal water from wishing wells. It's a lot to deal with, and a lot of it doesn't happen. But the reading thing has happened, and it's also happened with book clubs, which I'd always wanted to be a part of. I don't know, I have this weird thing sometimes where I get this very, when you say a word so many times that it loses all meaning? Well, sometimes when I really think about it, I have no idea how conversation works. Like, to me, like, stuff happens and you tell people about it, and that takes very little time, and maybe you ask people questions. And every once in a while, I step back and think, like, man, that conversation was just flowing. But most of the time, I have I have no idea how to say things, and it's real great that I that I worked at the writing center where the whole philosophy is like we just talk to people, we just have conversations, and it's especially great that I can't talk about books at all, and I was an English major and I'm now an editor, but what can you do? Maybe in some ways, I did those things because I knew I was bad at them, and it was like a compensatory thing. Like, maybe if I spend all of my time doing this, I'll be able to get at least like a normal level of being able to do this. Yeah, so I've been reading books with this group. It's like a feminist book club. That's what it started as. It is, I think all the books we've read so far have been women and or people of color, so which is pretty cool, and it's a nice mix of like nonfiction and fiction and stuff that's really socially conscious, which reflects intersectional feminism, which is the thing. And another thing is I've been witnessing Dandy and Jack doing their own little book club. They read the first book of Proust's big long I Ate a Cookie and Now Let Me Tell You My Life Story. And it was fun to watch them do that. And then they started reading Middlemarch, which is this big tome by George Eliot, which you may or may not have read yet. And I saw them start reading it a long time ago, and I read a bunch of books over the summer. And then they're talking about it, and I was like, hey, can I jump on board? And they said yes. One thing that I sometimes forget about myself, because I'm not in, I don't have a chance for it very much, is that I'm very competitive. And so they had started Middlemarch way back in the spring and made very slow progress because it's a very long book and they were both trying to graduate. And I'm like, I'm gonna catch up to them. I'm gonna see if I can do it. And they're still very busy, so I haven't made much progress lately. But as soon as I started, I slipped into this mode of not only I'm gonna catch up, but I'm gonna beat them. I'm gonna drive them into the ground. I'm gonna finish this book and then I'm gonna spoil everything and I'm gonna burn every copy to the ground so they can never finish. That would be a bad thing to do, and I recognize that. That being said, they are both about 300, 400 pages in, and I'm on page, let's see here, 728 out of 798. So, and it's great. Okay, so mild spoiler alert, Dandy and Jack. If you're watching this, which I hope you aren't, because I already said terrible things about you. But if you are, stop. Because a couple of things, and I'm not going to go into great detail, but like every time someone dies, there's a huge crazy deal with their death. Like, some secret item in a will, and or a family member / love child you never knew existed. And it's just filled with all these little dramas, like soap opera level drama and interconnection. And in a weird way, because it's so long, because it's 800 pages and it has these, there's like book 1, book 2, book 3, and they have chapters within them. You get all of these little arcs, both with characters and with sections of the story. And it reminds me a lot of watching a TV series where each season has its own arc, and then the series as a whole has an arc, and you have all of these, like, the characters are connected and you kind of cut from one group to the next, but they're all in the same wheelhouse and they all come back to each other. And in a weird way, reading this kind of feels like binge watching. And you know, there are all these think pieces like, oh, Netflix, the way people read and consume is different. The way people watch TV is different. And the thing is so that's been one really strange thing. Another one, which Jack pointed out before I started reading, is that George Eliot has this really fantastic capacity for describing character. The way he put it is like, I don't even think that books need to do this, but she does it so well. And he's totally right. There are all of these moments where the narrator, who's very active, who's hilariously active, and will jump in and be like, you may be wondering why I'm gonna switch to here. Let me tell you. Or like, you know, the kind of Emma Thompson in the Sky voice. But because there's all this access to characters and the narrator is so active, there are all of these moments where it's not just real, it's articulating something that you didn't realize was so real. So, like, this wife is in a party and she's very carefully not reacting to her husband, and the narrator talks about all these different levels of, like, it's not just that she didn't care, it's that she was so aware and spent all of this energy negating any possible reaction. And they're, like, this character sitting in a room and just thinking through things and kind of building out projections of, like, these different lives and different things she's going to do and kind of living with that as furniture, I think it was described as. And all of these things that you don't even catch yourself doing, these ways of thinking, these kind of mental scenarios, these ways of interacting with other people, described in such layers and such true layers, and it's phenomenal. I also like it because it has some really great characters who, you know, you love, you really root for. They're really great people, and also people who you kind of want to strangle. Anyways, I think you both would like this book, and it's 800 pages, so it is an investment, but, I mean, the chapters are often pretty short, which makes it go by pretty quickly. And it's one of those things where you feel really good once you're finished, because you just, like, immerse yourself for so long. I haven't finished yet, but it's one of those, as I'm progressing, it's feeling like it's really satisfying to watch the growth over this huge space. Hopefully it'll end feeling like that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good week. See you next Monday, Gwendolyn. Take care, guys.